To the Honourable the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
My question is to the Attorney-General. In October 2019, the now Attorney-General said in this place, and I quote, "Labor's opposition to mandatory sentencing is well known. It is no secret. It is spelled out in our national platform. Let me be clear, we do not support mandatory sentencing." With this in mind, and having been steamrolled by the Prime Minister on a bill that passed the House last week, can the Attorney-General please detail the benefits of mandatory sentencing, which he now strongly supports?
Order. The Minister for Climate Change and the Minister for Housing will cease interjecting. Order. No. Deputy's entitled to ask her question in silence out of respect to the House, and the Attorney hasn't even begun interjecting, so no one will interject. The Attorney has the call.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for her question. No government has done more to combat the abhorrent and shocking rise in anti-Semitism than this government. The Liberals talk about it, and this government acts.
Order. Members on my left and my right. That's far too much noise. The Attorney has the call.
The Liberals are still baying and shouting and talking. This government acts on anti-Semitism. We have legislated to ban the Nazi salute and hate symbols. We have legislated to criminalise the glorifying of terrorist acts and possessing violent extremist material. We've legislated to criminalise doxing. Those opposite voted against that. And now the Parliament has come together to pass a bill which criminalises hate speech. It's legislation that represents the toughest laws Australia has ever had against hate crimes. The legislation is a direct response to the hateful conduct happening on our streets, at our schools, in our communities. We're sending a clear and unambiguous message that advocating or threatening violence is not acceptable. It is criminal behaviour, and it will be treated as such. We want all Australians to feel safe and valued in our community, and that's what good governments do.
Order.
They unite the country against hate.
Attorney-General will just pause. The Minister was asked about the benefits of mandatory sentencing, and he's reading to the House about the legislation and the requirements. So I just want to give the Deputy Leader some assistance, because if you're asking a question about what are the benefits, he's listing that to the House. But, Minister, just if he can continue to make sure his answer is being relevant or directly relevant to the question and not stray into other topics, that will assist the House as well.
I thank the Speaker for that assistance. In the past few months, I've stood in the shadow of the main gate at the Auschwitz death camp. I've stood on the field where a music festival in Israel was turned into a bloodbath, and I've stood in the ruins of a burnt-out synagogue in my hometown. But those opposite have taken every opportunity since the 7th of October 2023 to politicise the trauma and the experiences of the Jewish people. Order. I do not need the Leader of the Opposition or any of those opposite to tell me what anti-Semitism is or how seriously I should take it. You're disgusting.
Order. The Minister for the Environment, the Assistant Foreign Minister, the Manager is entitled on his feet. I'll give him the call.
Thanks, Mr Speaker. I move the member be no longer heard.
Order. No, members on my right. Order. Members on my right will cease. Order. When the House comes to order, the motion before the House is that the Minister no longer be heard. I'll put the question. Those opinions say aye. Against no. The noes have it. Ayes have it. Division required. Ring the bells for 4 minutes.
You okay, Terry?
Lock the doors. The question before the House is the member no longer be heard. The ayes will pass to the right of the chair and the noes to the left. I appoint the honourable members for Parkes and Gray as tellers for the ayes and the honourable members for Werriwa and Bean as tellers for the noes. Order. The result of the division is ayes 52, noes 91. The matter is resolved in the negative. Order. If members can resume their seats as quickly and as quietly as possible. The Attorney-General has the call.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker.
Order. Order. No. The members on my right. The manager on a point of order.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. I request that the Attorney-General withdraw his highly disorderly and unparliamentary remarks and offensive remarks. There's nothing more serious than the opposition being accused of politicising an issue like this. He also uttered the words disgusting on at least half a dozen occasions.
All right, we'll deal.
At least half a dozen, Mr Speaker.
We'll deal with this.
So we
Order.
request a withdrawal.
We'll deal with this. We'll deal with this quickly, because I want question time to continue. I didn't hear, because of obviously the audible noise. I'm going to ask the Attorney-General, as he comes back to answer the question, he just withdraw the unparliamentary. I didn't hear what was said, so it's very difficult for me as the chair to make a judgment here when I don't hear. But I'm willing to hear from other members as well. The Prime Minister has the call.
On the point of order, Mr Speaker, the decision by the opposition to try to shut down.
Order. Order. No, the manager had a good go. The Prime Minister will be given the same go. Just everyone listen to each other. Prime Minister.
To try to shut down the minister, given the statements that have been made by many members of the opposition about a range of people on this side of the House, the idea that the minister should withdraw a statement is, quite frankly, totally inconsistent with things that have been said by those opposite over a considerable period of time. The minister, due to who he is, the idea that he is not a strong opponent of anti-Semitism, he is someone who feels this very personally and deeply. He was being interjected against by those opposite in behaviour that I regard as completely disorderly and completely unacceptable.
Okay. Look, the manager on further point of order.
Mr Speaker, a couple of points. Firstly, you've requested that the Attorney-General withdraw, which I think is the right course of action, so the Speaker has made that request. Secondly, the question was in relation to mandatory minimum sentencing. There was no invective in the question targeted at the Attorney-General. The Prime Minister somehow said that the Attorney-General was goaded into his unparliamentary remarks. That's not an excuse anyway, but quite frankly, it's clear-cut here that there are few more disgusting accusations that could be made in this House. You've requested that the Attorney-General withdraw, and he should.
Order. Just so that we're clear, now that I'm in the picture, you're saying that the word disgusting should be withdrawn. That is not unparliamentary and has been used. Look, this is an emotive debate. I can appreciate that, and members have every right to feel grievances on either side. I want this debate to continue. I want question time to function, but I'll hear from the Leader of the House.
Mr Speaker, a second point of order was raised by the manager during that with respect to relevance. And just on that, I want to say that the question referred to an amendment to a piece of legislation, and the Attorney-General has been referring to that piece of legislation. You can't refer to the penalties without referring to the crime, and therefore it is completely relevant. It is completely relevant to what was asked.
Okay. The order. The member for Solomon. The manager on a further point of order.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. Just to be very clear, the words we are offended by and seeking that the Attorney-General withdraw is that we're politicising anti-Semitism. Politicising anti-Semitism. Now, that would be quite an extraordinary ruling for this House to allow an accusation like that to be made. To the Leader of the House's point, I only raised the context of the question in response to the Prime Minister, who somehow stated that the Attorney-General was goaded into his unparliamentary remarks, which was clearly not the case.
Order. The Leader of the House.
Now that the Manager Opposition Business has clarified what he wants withdrawn, withdrawal has to be made at the first opportunity. Now, I would dispute that it was unparliamentary given what's been said by the opposition in a number of debates. But notwithstanding that, the Manager of Opposition Business after that point stood up, went to the dispatch box and did not ask for it to be withdrawn. He chose to have the House vote instead. The House has now voted and the answer should proceed.
I want the House— no, we've got to move on. I can appreciate the argument. I'm going to say to the Attorney-General, please use language which is parliamentary and that does not cause offence to any other members. Despite the emotive nature of this, the opposition are entitled to— order. No, the Leader of the Opposition. I'm making a statement to the House. We need to get through question time. I want the Attorney-General to use language which is appropriate and not cause offence to any other members for the remainder of his answers. If he does invoke such language, he will be sat down immediately. The Attorney-General, for the last 34 seconds. The Leader of the Opposition on point of order.
Mr Speaker, to your words that you've just offered to the House, it is with long-standing precedent in this place that if offensive words are uttered by a Minister of the Crown, which in this case they most certainly have, that is not in dispute. The argument that the argument that the Leader of the House puts is that not that the words were unparliamentary or required. His point is that they weren't dealt with in the first instance. Now, again, that is an argument that fails because the course of action taken was, given the offensive nature of it, we responded in a way that was obviously proportionate to what were discussed in comments. Now, there is a long precedent, not to mention the fact, Mr Speaker, that your predecessors have required, even if they haven't heard the words themselves, for the minister to withdraw that statement. That was your instinct, rightly. That was your direction to the minister. And now, with the weight of the Prime Minister and the Leader of the House trying to—
Members on my right.
Mr Speaker, their words from the Prime Minister, that ramble that he provided before, should have no bearing on your decision whatsoever, and you shouldn't be bullied into a position which was against your natural and right instinct.
The order. Order. The original words were different, and now it's been clarified. I understand the point. I'm going. Just, I'll get you. The member for Warringah has been on her feet waiting for the call, so she's been very patient, and everyone deserves, if they have a view, to be heard on this matter. The member for Warringah on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I wish just to raise concern about the arguments raised in this respect around this is a policy issue, and it's clearly a decision of members of this House to disagree with government policy or to raise an issue in the context of question time around a policy. As such, describing that as politicising an issue is very much what it is. And so I would ask for— I would suggest— submit, or whatever the right way of putting it, is that if that is considered unparliamentary or grounds for withdrawal or refusal, it would mean any area of policy where there is disagreement becomes something that is objectionable because it is essentially being politicised. And so I am concerned at the way in which this is positioned, because it's the same as the nature of a policy being racist or anything like that. These are policy differences, and that is the very nature of this place.
I thank the member for Warringah. The manager on a further point of order.
I would just note, Mr.
Order.
Speaker,
Members on my right,
you have
the Chief
directed
Government
the Attorney-General to withdraw, and there is precedent for members to be named where they refuse to withdraw unparliamentary remarks.
Okay. I'm not going to accept any further points of order on this. I'm drawing a line under this exchange, and I'm asking the Attorney-General to be careful with his language, to always respect members and not use inoffensive language, and I'll give him the call to conclude his answer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm the son and the grandson of a Holocaust survivor. I went to the commemoration of the liberation of the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, a place where 1 million Jews were murdered, a place where my great-grandmother was murdered on the 13th of October 1942. And I say to members of this House that we've had a wave of anti-Semitism in this country, and right now what we need is unity. We need bipartisanship, and that's the effort that our government made with the bill that was passed by this parliament last week.